Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
Ghostwire Tokyo is a
Yeah.
very weird game. So this game had like weird press around it, like people were pumped and then it just disappeared and then it got pushed and it got delayed and then it kind of came
Yeah.
out and there was like just nothing around it. And I think it was just kind of one of those things that came out and everybody was just like, fine.
I feel like people were waiting for this game to be like, we'll see how this one goes. And then it
Yes.
came out and everyone's like very middling. It's like, all right, I guess it was they didn't land it.
Yeah, it's weird because it was one of those things where that's exactly where I was like, all right, if this like reviews like above like an 80, 85, like
Yeah.
I'm all in, no questions asked. This is probably going to be great, but I don't know. So I finally got around to playing it the past week or so. It's such an interesting game. It's one of those
Okay.
things where it's like bad and good are weird because I have very fond like feelings towards this game, but it's one of those where it's like, it's definitely okay. You know those games where
Okay.
like favorite versus best. It's that
Sure.
kind of thing where it's like it has a lot of the favorite things, but not a lot of the best things.
But does it even have a lot of your favorite things? I mean, you said it has a lot of your favorite things, but I remember when we were kind of talking about this beforehand. It's like you were kind of like still like kind of like it's fine. But I feel like a game that was you really enjoyed, you'd be like, here's all the cool things about it.
Yeah,
By the way, it's not that great.
like
But I felt like you were like you weren't like that when we were
it's
talking about this
interesting.
game.
It's interesting. I don't want to sit here and say it's great, but it's very interesting. Like
Yeah.
just as you're going through it, it's one of those things that has 30 minutes of really cool and then
Yeah.
like an hour of like this is fine. And then 30 minutes of like that was pretty cool. And then 2 hours of like, well, why didn't you do that thing again?
Oh,
It's got a
sure.
lot of that where
Gotcha.
it's like, okay, this scene is really cool. So yeah, just to kind of get into it, it's one of those horror things that I'm not overly fond of, which is where it like leaves things intentionally vague for a really long time.
Oh, okay, sure.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what some horror things do to kind of add to the mystery and the element and the anything
Yeah.
could happen. And I think sometimes for me, what ends up happening is it just ends up me being like, it's been so long I don't even care. I'm just doing this. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I know that that
Sure.
bad guy is killing people for reasons. And this game actually doesn't really tell you the plot until probably 25-30% of the way through. So
Oh,
you're
what's even?
like
Oh, sure. Yeah.
so you're like 4 or 5 hours in and then you get bad guy monologue. So those first
Oh,
4 or 5
jeez.
so those first 4 or
Yeah.
5 hours is the basic setup is fog overtakes all of Tokyo, people disappear. Again, some of the setup stuff is really cool. You're sitting there dying on the ground and this random spirit just like smacks itself right into your body
Yeah.
and you have the dual personalities going. So you are just random guy whose sister happened to be taken by bad guy. And
Okay.
the guy who comes into you is like this paranormal investigator, secret agent guy who knows all of these like weird, crazy underground cult things that have been happening around Tokyo for like the past like 10 years. And he's where all the magic comes from. So he has all these supernatural powers and you're just this ordinary guy trying to rescue your sister.
I mean,
And
that's
that's
a
kind
cool
of where,
set. I mean, that's a cool
and
setup.
again, this is what I'm saying. That's the first like half hour.
Yeah.
And then you spend like an hour or two trying to figure out, okay, like who is this guy who's like combined with me and pushed together and in my brain, and there's the like he
Yeah.
talks to you and can kind of talk through you, and it does like 3 hours of like, okay, now figure out who this guy is. Who is this guy in my brain? Is he legit? Is he not legit? What's happening? I don't get it. Before you get to like, okay, here's the bad guy and here's actually his big evil plot. That's
But I mean, even given
underwhelming to say
that,
the least.
if yeah, okay, if like if the plot is sparse, I mean, is at least like the character interactions good? Usually, that's like plot's weak, characters good, or characters weak, plot good. So is this
Plot's weak, characters okay.
great?
But like again, and this is the thing where like that setup is very, very cool.
Yeah.
They just do very little with it. And then there's really cool things that happen, and I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but at one point there's just like gigantic shadow monsters all over Tokyo.
Mhm.
And it's like, go get them, and your whole character is trying to like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And it's like, oh, you just do this. All right, all better.
Oh, okay.
It's a lot of that
Oh,
where you're just
gotcha.
like,
Yeah.
really cool setup that just kind of falls flat.
Is it the mechanics that are falling flat? That's like, 'cause sometimes you
So
can have, yeah, or is it like the fanfare that's falling flat, or
it's
what?
it's just kind of the general like feeling where it's just like every time you're like, oh, this is gonna be a moment, this is gonna be okay.
Oh,
You know
that
that like
sucks.
that
That
plot
sucks.
build,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
momentum, you're getting your momentum. You're like, okay, this is really cool. I did this, and this opened a gate, and out of the gate came these things, and the guy went to here, and he's doing this and that. Oh, it was just I beat a boss, and it's better now.
Oh, I got you. Oh man,
So
that
it's
sucks. Yeah, because
a
it
lot of
sounds like it's happening with the story as well. That's holding on to whatever that mystery is so long, and
it's
then the
yeah,
mystery is revealed. It's like, well, all right, great.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. It's poorly or not poorly, but it's structured in a way that's way too long,
yeah,
and then the payoff is just like, eh. So it's like, okay, if we shorten that, maybe the
gotcha.
payoff's fine, but yeah, I think, but again, it does some cool things. So to kind of get into the gameplay itself, um, the good is it's super fun. You just sit there
Okay.
and like you do your fun hand motion. There's lots of charge attacks. The bad part is that if you get 2 hours into this game, you have played like all of the gameplay. Nothing really changes from those first 2 hours.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of those where it's like, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool. And as you go, you're like, okay, like the game's only about 10 hours, 12 hours long. So it doesn't necessarily overstay its welcome, but you start to feel it towards the end where you're just kind of in that mindset of, all right, like let's get my wind power and with my hands and okay. And it just kind of gets that monotonous feel towards the end.
So you're not really earning. I mean, you're not earning like new abilities necessarily. Like you're not earning like abilities that are changing mechanically or
It's
anything like that. Or
no, you have a skill tree, but it's a lot of like, okay, now you can do 4 blasts. Now you
oh
get the
god, I hate
collectibles
that.
add ammo, and it's okay. Now this does 5 seconds versus 6 seconds. It's a lot of that kind of thing
That's a
where it's
lot
like,
of like every
okay,
game needs to be an RPG, so let's make like the most
yes,
boring skill tree. Yeah,
it
yeah,
is one of those where it's just like we need a skill tree because we need a skill tree. So here's your skill
sure.
tree. Um, but again, it's fun. It's the open world. It took me a little bit to get what it was doing, but there's lots of up and down. You actually have a glide ability, so you can kind of glide around buildings, which
Mhm.
is pretty cool. The exploration it is neat. It took me a little bit to get used to it, just because there was a lot more up than I originally thought.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, yeah.
So that kind of messed me up a little bit at first. Was trying to get up, and I actually kind of got stuck one point and realized like, oh no, it wants me to climb up the building and jump from building to building, which was fun. But it took me a minute
Yeah.
to kind of get in that mindset of, oh, this isn't a I'm on the ground running around. This is an I'm on the ground, and I kind of get this little bit of a glide, so I kind of have this superpower to jump around, which again,
All sounds
fun.
cool. Yeah, this all
Again,
sounds
that's the
cool.
thing. Like,
Yeah,
I this is one of those things where it's just like I think a lot of people talk about like just a 7 is just that game that's interesting but doesn't quite hit it. This
yeah,
game is the epitome of that, where it's just like
sure.
it tries some things and it gets some things, but just it's a miss. Um, you're gonna think I'm weird, but this game has cool side quests. I like the side quests in this
Oh my
game.
god. Well, you know what? Actually I was listening to our Evil Within 2 review recently, just because I was trying to figure out if I remember liking that game or not.
Yeah,
And the side quests in that were really good, so I guess it's not too surprising. That's cool.
yeah, it's short stuff, and that's what I like with the side
Oh,
quests. Is it's
sure.
well,
Okay.
okay, not just that, but it's like at one point you find and it's like weird Yakuza stuff almost. Like at one point
Oh,
you
okay.
find a guy and he's like, "There's somebody moaning in the bathroom, dude," and I got to get in the bathroom.
Oh, that's funny.
And so you walk in the bathroom, there's a guy moaning, and it's like there's a ghost in there. Like I don't want to go in there. I don't know what evil spirit this is, and it's just a guy like who's like, "No, I'm out of toilet paper. Can you get me some toilet
That's
paper?"
very funny.
And you literally just go
Yeah.
like to the next bathroom, grab some toilet paper, give him the toilet paper, and go back to the guy and like, "You're all set, bud." It's
I
like
mean,
that.
is it? Yeah,
That
are they
Yakuza
all
style
that
where
fun and cheeky, or is it just like that's the one that sticks out,
there
or is it?
there's several. That's just the one I
Okay,
happen
that's
to
cool.
know. Which is again, they're just quick and easy things. None of them are like go. None that I ran into or none that I did were like go do this, and go grab this from this guy and come back here and then go
Yeah.
here. Like one was the guy really liked looking at this tree and it had really pretty white leaves, but now because everybody's died, all the leaves turned to red because these monsters were there and it was covered in blood. So can you just go to
Cool.
the tree and kill all the monsters so that my tree will be pretty again?
Oh, it's kind of fun.
It's like it's just
Yeah.
stuff like that. And again, the tree is maybe like 2 blocks away, so you just go walk over, you do it, and you come back. It's just as short and simple, and they're good, they're well written. It's just I think it kind of gets to my ultimate feeling on this, which is the world of Ghostwire Tokyo is very, very cool.
Yeah.
The things that you can do in this world, the way that the world's developed, the things that are happening between spirits and ghosts and your character, those are all super, super cool, interesting things, high level. But what they're choosing to do in it is just not
Sure.
there. It's okay, evil guy in mask is trying to destroy Tokyo. And that's literally about the extent of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you have this cool world where the underworld and these things are coming together and merging, and you do these cool sections where interference happens because the worlds are overlapping, and you get the weird like stretchy hallways and buildings upside down, and you're running through things, and it does those things, and it works really, really cool. But again, it's just that one piece of it, and then there's never really any more explanation other than the first time it happens, like, oh yeah, sometimes these merge. And then you do it like 4 or 5 times. It's like, this is cool every time I do it, but there's nothing connecting that to any part of the plot. It's just a cool thing happening in the world every now and then. And it's just the fog, the way the fog works is like the fog, you're kind of clearing that out as you go and opening up the map, which is again, it's just, there's so much cool here. And just so much where it's like, that's where you should have focused. Why didn't we do more of that?
Is this something that you think is fixed in the Ghostwire Special Edition, or is this like we needed? Well, Ghostwire 2. I probably
Ghostwire 2.
Oh, okay, sure. It's
Ghostwire 2 or
DLC. That's not. It's not like something that can be fixed with tweaks here and there. It's just kind of like the mechanic thesis doesn't quite work.
Yeah, I think there's ways. I mean, I could sit here and list off ways to fix it, but that's not my job. But
no,
I don't want to presume to do somebody's job better than them. But I think there's lots of little things where it's like, okay, had we focused more on this aspect, fantastic.
Yeah.
Had we maybe adjusted the pace at which you get your powers, fantastic.
Sure.
Had we added in a couple more, there's another thing where you have like normal human weapons. So you have like a bow, you have these talismans that stun things, but your ammo.
Sorry, normal human weapons like bow and arrows and talismans.
I meant like things you could pick up, like because your magic is just like spirit stuff that you refill. So your magic refills every time you kill somebody. You get like pickups, kind of like in Doom.
Oh, okay, sure.
But these things you have to like specifically go to a store and buy, or like randomly find around the world. So it ends up being that like you'll go like I went like hours forgetting they even existed because I just ran out and I didn't have time to go back to a store and buy more.
Oh,
so there's like this whole half of the gameplay that I don't even feel like I really got a part of just because it wasn't easy to acquire arrows, and I never got to the point where I could get to hold more than 10. So it's like, okay, I used my 10, like maybe I'll find some more, but otherwise my wind magic and my fire magic, that just keeps refilling over and over and over again. So again, just not to get repetitive and draw this out any further, it's just again those cool little ideas that just we took in a weird direction, but it's interesting. I think if you like this kind of horror thing, you like the supernatural stuff, I think there's enough there to kind of pull you in, but I think you just kind of got to know what you're getting into. I also expect it to be a lot longer. Like I said, it's only 10 or 12 hours, which I feel like is a good length for something that's kind of interesting, but not like in the like really want to sit there for a while. But I don't know. It was a very interesting game. And that's kind of the best way I can sum it up without going good, bad. I don't even necessarily want to say that because again, there were moments that I thought 10 out of 10, this is amazing. And there are moments where I'm like, oh, okay, let's do this again. So I don't know. It's something that I think everybody's going to kind of check out for themselves if you're really interested in that supernatural thing, those open world adventure games. The open world's kind of small, so that was nice in my perspective. I'm not a huge, like, give me an Assassin's Creed where there's 8,000 miles of content to explore. It's all pretty tight. The collectibles are neat, so it's interesting.
I'm curious. I mean, I'm curious. I'm doing the calculus of like, when do I buy this? It's not algebra. It's calculus on the purchase of this one.
Yeah, but we are Workforce Gaming. You can subscribe to us wherever you're listening. Follow us on Twitter at Workforce Gaming, and we will see you later.
Bye.